One of the greatest challenges that many people and families are incurring today is trying to become debt free. They're overwhelmed with debt, whether it's credit card debt, personal loans, student loans, high medical expenses, but it's all becoming so unnormal. In other words, that people do not have control over their money. They're not controlling their income, which is leading to expenses being more excessive than they've been in many, many years. And so today, during episode 275, that's right, episode 275, I'm going to talk about debt freedom and you. Why? Because it's very important that we all become debt free as best that we can. And so, during this episode, what I want you to take from this is the fact that there is a path, there is a way, and I'm going to share some of those ideas and concepts with you today. So, one of the things to consider becoming debt free is a significant financial milestone that can lead to greater financial stability. Because once you become stable and pay off all your debts, it gives you the leverage to do things that you can really want to do. And you're not constrained by limitations of debt always being there. The only thing that you're working for and working towards is paying off your debts. Whereas if you have all your debts paid off, then you can start investing, whether it's in real estate, in the stock market, and whether it's leveraging and collaborating with other people to even extend loans to others. And so there are many, many ways of doing so. And that's what I want to help you with today. It also reduces that stress and it increases opportunities for wealth building. And wealth building is very important. It could be something as simple as opening up an insurance policy, a whole life policy that accrues interest all the time. And of course, any money that's in insurance is debt free. And so it's one of the good ways to leverage. In other words, you can become your own bank, is what I'm talking about. And I'll get to that in another episode. So, again, the name is Paul Lawrence Fan. And trust me, over the course of years, I've been in debt plenty of times because I was not really paying attention to everything that I was earning and everything that I was purchasing. I just wanted to buy everything. I had several cars at one time, a few homes at one time. And then I just realized that I can only live in one house at a time, and I can only drive one vehicle at a time. And so I came to my senses, if you will, senses. Okay, the joke wasn't that great, but you get the point. And I just realized that it's better to be and approach things from a simplistic standpoint. And so achieving and maintaining debt freedom requires a combination of discipline, financial management, strategic planning, and behavioral changes. So we have to make better decisions in terms of the income that we have in and what our debts are. And those debts may cover renting an apartment, renting a house, or purchasing a vehicle. And so there are many things that we can use the money for, but we have to make good decisions as they apply to all of them. And so one of the things that we want to look at is we want to make an assessment of our financial situation. And each of us have different situations. Mine is different from yours and vice versa. But begin by listing all of your debts to include the credit cards, student loans, mortgages or rent, car loans, and any other liabilities that are out there. And one area that I really like to dig into is that we have these subscriptions out here. It could be to an online magazine, or it could be to, if you're an entrepreneur, you may have a app that you use that you should be using that you aren't using. But we find and look for anything that we're not using all the time and just do away with that subscription because it costs a lot in the long run. For each debt, note the balance, the interest rate, the minimum and monthly payments, and the due dates, because that gives you a really good idea of where you stand financially. And then you want to understand your cash flow. As I mentioned before, depending on how much you earn, for example, when I was in the military, we were paid every 2 weeks or sometimes every month, depending on how we requested it. And so you have to be able to manage it bi-weekly. And in so doing, you'll pay more attention to it. So look at how you're being paid. And then you want to analyze your income in comparison to your expenses and identify how much money is coming in each month and where it's going. Because if we don't know where our money is going, it can go anywhere. Money has a mind of its own unless you're in control of it. And this will help you to understand how much you can allocate towards debt payment. And then we want to look at those credit score evaluations. And I mentioned this in a previous episode where I talked about the importance of credit card and credit scores. And there's a connection between the amount of interest you pay on an item that you purchase. Let's say, for example, a vehicle. And if you have a high credit score, let's say 800, the interest rate on that particular loan is going to be a lot lower than someone who has a 5% uh, someone who has a 500 credit score. So as you can see, it makes a tremendous difference. And a higher credit score can provide better interest rates and more favorable loan terms in the future. And then you want to create a debt repayment plan, my people. I'm going to use the B word, and the B word is budgeting. No one likes to talk about it, but it's what I did for many years as a part of being a financial manager, managing multi-billion-dollar programs for the Air Force, and as well as multi-billion-dollar programs for Mobile Oil. So you want to develop a realistic budget that prioritizes debt repayment while converting essential living expenses. Tools like the 50-30-20 rule: 50% needs, 30% wants, and 20% saving or debt repayment. It can be very helpful. And some of the debt repayment strategies, which I've mentioned before, as two popular methods are the debt snowball and debt avalanche. And what this takes into account, debt snowball focus on paying off the smallest debt first to build momentum. And when you're doing this, let's say if that bill is $400, you're going to put all your income for bills on that 400, and then you're going to pay the other bills that you have, paying those minimum payments. And so you get to the next highest bill that you have out there, and you try to pay that all off in lump sum if possible, and then pay the minimum on the other bills that you have. And then we have the debt avalanche, which is another strategy to target debts with the highest interest rate first to minimize the total interest paid. So you're looking at one, let's say if you have a interest rate of 27%, it's going to cost you a lot of interest over the time. So you may want to target that one first and then pay the minimum for the others. And while I'm at it, let me also put up this particular slide for you can see, so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's very important to start managing your debt when managing your debt now. And my goal right now is to pay off all of my debts by December 31st of this year so that I can roll in with some momentum in 2025. And I will be able to do that. And as you can see here, make a plan, take real action, and achieve financial stability. And I'm going to leave this chart up here just for a few minutes so that you can understand where I'm coming from. Then you want to look at other strategies you can perhaps use, like consolidation or refinancing. And so when you consider consolidating high interest debts into single loans with a lower interest rate, this can simplify the payments because you only have one payment that you're making. And it would be a very high amount, but it's going to include everything else. It's going to save you money. And this simplifies payments and reduce the amount of interest you pay over time. And then for reducing expenses and increasing income, you can cut unnecessary expenses. As I said before, maybe if you're paying $5 a day for some coffee at a certain coffee house, instead of doing that, go to the grocery store, find that particular brand you like, and buy you some K-cups or something that may have 12 in it, and you will only pay maybe $7 or $8 for it, and you'll save money over the time that you're using that. And it could be just temporary, but if you try that for about 4 or 5 months, you'll see just how much you're saving, and you'll still be drinking your great, what I call food coffee. And so you want to identify and eliminate any non-essential spending. It might include dining out less, canceling unused subscriptions, which I mentioned before, finding cheaper alternatives for certain services instead of eating out all the time. Maybe come up with a meal plan where you cook all your meals on Sunday and then you take the food into work or just in your normal day. So let's look at some behavioral changes in financial discipline. So we want to avoid any new debt until we get our bills paid off. So if you have an emergency, for example, if your microwave goes out and you want another one, maybe you can get that, but nothing really extremely expensive. So you want to commit to not accumulating new debt while paying off existing obligations. And this may involving using cash instead of credit cards or setting strict spending limits. And then build an emergency fund. Now, a lot of people can't afford, if they had an emergency, have $400 to cover a particular what we would call emergency. So you want to be able to position yourself where you can do this. It involves using cash instead of credit cards and setting stricter spending limits. And that's very important as well. So maybe establish an emergency fund of $1,000 to cover unexpected expenses, and this prevents the need to rely on credit cards in case of emergencies. And then you want to do mindful spending. So you want to practice conscious spending by distinguishing between needs and wants. Needs and wants, my friends, because we always want something else. And so we have to really like calm ourselves down because we want to, again, be able to manage our debts and stay in control. And we also want to stay motivated. So regularly review your finances, consistently track your progress towards your debt freedom and adjust your budget. And then acknowledge certain small victories. So if you pay off one of the bills through the snowball effect, then this will give you that opportunity to celebrate that. And don't celebrate it by going out purchasing something, but just your own one. And then you may need to seek professional help if needed. If you're struggling, consider consulting a financial advisor or credit counselor, and you can get one of those at your bank free. And then here's some examples of the snowball success by someone, we'll name her Maria. She had 3 credit cards for balances of $2,000, $5,000, and $10,000 at varying interest rates. She opted for the debt snowball method, paying off the smallest debt first. Within 2 years, Maria eliminated all of her credit card debt by focusing her extra payments on the smallest balance, gaining momentum and confidence as each debt was paid off. And so that's an example of one. Now, I'm going to give you an example of an avalanche. And let's use an example of James, how he tackles high interest rates. So James carried multiple debts, including a high interest credit card and a student loan. He chose the debt avalanche method, prioritizing the credit card with a 20% interest rate by paying extra on the high interest debt. And he saved thousands of interest and became debt-free 3 years ahead of schedule. So what I want to share with you this in conclusion, that achieving debt freedom is a multifaceted process that involves careful planning, disciplined execution, and ongoing commitment. And by assessing your financial situation, creating a strategic repayment plan, reducing expenses and increasing income with maybe a side hustle and making necessary behavioral changes, you can eliminate debt and build a solid foundation for financial stability. And so the examples I provided illustrates that with the right approach and decision making. So what I want to share now is to just let you know that it's possible to become debt free. I've done it before, and now I'm doing it again. And you again can see this in its entirety on episode 275 on YouTube. And I have that at www.youtube.com/the@ and Wealth Academy podcast /videos, videos. And if you want to get a free financial coaching session with me, you can also do that. And I have the link and I'll put it in the show notes as well. So my time is up and I thank you for yours. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you on the next episode. Go out to Apple Podcasts, rate and review us and provide us with a 5-star rating. Thank you so much and have a great day.